Munatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari Jasadanandana Braja Janaranjana Jasadanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnu Pad Padmahamsa Astatarasatasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shira Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Samveda Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai Nitai Gorpemanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 4 from chapter 30. Dashavarsha Sahasrante Purushastu Sanatanaha Tesham Avirabhut Kritram Shantina Shama Yan Rucha Dashavarsha Sahasrante Purushastu Sanatanaha Tesham Avirabhut Kritram Shantina Shamayan Rucha. austerities. Purushashtu sanatanaha Desham avirabhut krichtram Antina shamayan rucha Dashavarsha sahasrante Purushashtu sanatanaha Tesham avirabhut krichtram Shantina shamayandracha Dashavarsha 10 years Sahasra ante at the end of 1,000 Purushaha the Supreme Person To then Sanatanaha eternal, Tesham of the Prachetas, Avirabhut appeared, Krichtram the severe austerity, Shantena satisfying, Shamayan mitigating, Rucha by his beauty. Translation: at the end of 10,000 years of severe austerities performed by the Prachetas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to reward their austerities, appeared before them in his very pleasing form. This appealed to the Prachetas and satisfied the labor of their austerities. Purport: performing 10,000 years of severe austerities does not seem like a happy endeavor. Yet, the devotees, the serious students of spiritual life, undergo such austerities to attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At that time, when the duration of life was very long, people could undergo severe austerities for thousands of years. It is said that Valmiki, the author of Ramayana, underwent meditational austerities for 60,000 years. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appreciated the austerities undergone by the Prachetas, and he finally appeared before them in a pleasing form. Thus, they all became satisfied and forgot the austerities they underwent in the material world. If one is successful after hard labor, he is very pleased. Similarly, the devotee forgets all his labors and austerities as soon as he contacts the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Dhruva Maharaj was only a 5-year-old boy, he underwent severe austerities by eating simply dry foliage, drinking only water, and taking no food. After some time, he gave up the dry leaves. There was just air. In this way, after 6 months, he was able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. When he saw the Lord, he forgot all his austerities and said, Svamin katartosmi, my dear Lord, I am very pleased. Paragraph. Of course, these austerities were performed in the Satya Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, and Treta Yuga, but not in this age of Kali. In this Kali Yuga, one can attain the same results simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. because the people of this age are fallen, the Lord is kind enough to give them the easiest method. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can attain the same results. However, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu points out, we are so unfortunate that we're not even attracted to chanting the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dashavarsha sahasrante purushastu sanatanaha tesham avirabhut krichtram shantena shamayan rucha. At the end of 10,000 years of severe austerities performed by the Prachetas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to reward their austerities, appeared before them in his very pleasing form. This appealed to the Prachetas and satisfied the labor of their austerities. Because the duration of their austerities was 10,000 years, we can understand implied, not only was it a different yuga, but specifically it was Satya Yuga, and certainly that conforms with the rest of what's being presented. That is, this is the fourth canto, from the third canto through this portion of the fourth canto, we're still in Satya Yuga. It's the very, very beginning of the dawn of at least a day of Lord Brahma. Because going back earlier into the fourth canto, and third canto, it describes the day of Brahma, because he recreates something that happened from the previous day. That's what happens. Partial devastation from the heavenly realm. By the way, heaven is also dissolved at the end of a day of Brahma, down to the lower planets, dissolved during the night of Brahma, and the next morning of Brahma, he recreates, and that's described in the third canto. So this is another day of Brahma, but it's the beginning of the day of Brahma, and specifically it's Satya Yuga, and the duration of life is 100,000 years. Next yuga 10,000, next yuga 1,000, next yuga 100 and reducing. So 10,000 years is 1/10 of 100,000 years. So it's like going on a japa retreat for 10 years. That'd be nice. But while doing that, the Kali Yuga mind might say, whoa, 10 years of japa retreat. I want to go to the city and have some mode of passion in between, little break from the japa retreat. So that's a kind of austerity. It, as Prabhupada is saying, it does not seem like a happy endeavor, 10,000 years of austerity. But there are statements found in the Vedas that austerity is the wealth of the Brahmana. And that sounds like a contradiction. Austerity is a wealth. Austerity is austerity. But with the austerity is specifically controlling the mind and senses. And to do that, that's an austerity. So to the person that's a sense gratifier, that looks like, wow, that's an austerity. Like some people say, frankly, what do you guys do for fun? You know, you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do that. You know, what do you do for fun? Come on to the temple, we'll show you what we do for fun. And, you know, but using the senses in the service of the master of the senses, that's our fun. And that what we don't do is use our senses in the service of illusion. Prabhupada so many times quoted the what's his name? The personality in England who said, impossible. Lord Zetland, can you make me a brahmana? Yes. Don't do this and don't do this and don't do this. Follow the 4 regular principles. Impossible. Because life is made of those things. And what do you do for fun if you don't do those things? So a Brahmana understands what's fun is connecting the soul with the Supreme Soul and connecting the senses with service to the Supreme Soul. That's fun. That's happiness. That's wealth. That's a different kind of wealth. It's a spiritual wealth. Or at least it's a wealth of being, on the negative side, not being harassed by the pushings, the urges, the vegams of anger, lust, greed, the tongue, the mind, etc. One is relieved from that. But besides, being relieved from harassment, in the absence of those harassments, there's something positive. And the something positive is access to Brahman, access to that which is eternal, the eternal happiness of the soul. The Supreme Soul, the relationship of the soul with the Supreme Soul in a loving exchange. That happiness can be accessed. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Just through the austerity of chanting includes the control of the senses and the control of the mind. At the Sunday program in Naperville, I spoke about that verse from, part of what I spoke about was the verse from Canto 1, Chapter 3, the very last verse, text 44, where rapt attention in the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, or rapt attention in japa. By rapt attention, one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every page. I don't see him. But with rapt attention, that's the indication. I spent the evening at Sri Vallabha's home, and after Mangal Arati and some japa time, he pulled out the harmonium and was chanting very softly, like Jai Jagannath likes to do, before Mangal Arati, before his deities. And, softly, different melodies, and very similar. So I asked him later, what's your meditation? He said, I'm chanting for the pleasure of the deities. So that's nice. You're not just practicing melodies so that you can do a nice riff when it's your turn to chant. It's you're chanting for the pleasure of the deities. It's not the mode of passion, it's devotion. And he said, Subal told me, just keep doing that, and one day you'll see the deities dancing. Like, by rapt attention, you will be able to see Krishna in every page. But you can't have rapt attention unless the mind is pure. Oh. And you can't have a pure mind unless you're pure in action. You can't be pure in action unless you're pure in eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And if someone right away says, impossible, then they're not going to be able to find that greater happiness. And that's very unfortunate. But a brahmana is one who has control. Samadhamma tapakshocham shantir arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. Swabhavajam, because that's their character, their quality. From character or quality comes behavior. So we don't have the character or the quality, but we can practice, and that's what quote austerity is. It sounds like painful, but it's not. It's relief of painful. It's mitigation of that which is painful. It's disconnect from maya, that which is not, so that it's like someone that has an addiction. It's a detox program from addiction, for addiction for maya. And even we know better, conditioned tendency still pushes. So rather than yielding to the pushing, there's the austerity. The austerity for us it's chanting the holy name, but it means also following the regular principles and bringing the mind to Krishna instead of to the pushings. Nasate vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sataha. Withdrawing and investing. Withdrawing consciousness from the temporary, the illusory manifestation, and investing in the real manifestation. I think I shared this, but it's appropriate for this context. There was, again, the morning walk conversations of Prabhupada are delightful, and one of the standard procedures that he would follow is he would ask Swarup Damodar, what do the scientists say? And we ask Prajapati, what do theologians say? One devotee was speaking about the Stoicism. I recognized the voice. It was Bali Mardan. There's a philosophy called Stoicism, Srila Prabhupada. What is that? What do they say? And the Stoics say, life is suffering. So the philosophy is just become very sturdy so that you can endure and not be overwhelmed by the suffering. So Stoics, they can undergo extreme hardships, kind of like tapasvis, just extreme, even deliberately subject themselves to extreme austerities. Like one of the Govinda's restaurants that I visited, they have a little reading room. There's Prabhupada's books on the shelf, but then there's picture books because people like picture books. They call it, the coffee table books. That's what's the American culture. So the one of the picture books in the Govinda's restaurant reading room was a series of pictures of tapasvis. So I've heard about it and read about it, but then they had picture. There was a yogi in the heat of the summer. It's not like Chicago summer. It's scorching summer in Vrindavan and certain places, and 7-8 fires all around, sitting in the middle, That was the summer picture. And then the winter picture was a yogi in Gangotri with his beard floating. And over here, it's big ice cubes and, with it's ice all around, the little opening in the ice, and there he is, just his big beard floating and his long hair floating. And then another one was a yogi lying on a cactus, with big thorns, cactus thorns, and just lying on the cactus thorns with a little, hat for people that want to give a donation for his display of austerities. And then another one was just a straw sticking through the sand, and the caption explained, below the sand was a yogi who buried himself in the sand so that only a straw was sticking up above the sand. Cool, huh? Didn't show when he had to pass what happened. Maybe somebody came along every now and then and, a few drops of nectar through the straw. Here's some charnamrita or something. That's called austerity in the mode of ignorance. Parching the elements of the body, parching the senses, is austerity in the mode of ignorance. It's austerity, but in the mode of ignorance. For what? To control the mind and senses. For what? Well, I don't like the harassment of being dictated to by my senses, so I'm going to control my senses, and I'll become radical, fanatical. I'll become totally ignorant in the mode of ignorance, to just stop the senses. But it's really artificial, because what happens afterwards? Afterwards is the material energy continues to work. That's how this nirvishesha shunyavadi process works. It's artificial, because it's not the positive happiness of the soul. It's trying in a mechanical means to cease the disturbances of the material energy. But the soul wants positive happiness. So it's not going to endure. It's another asat. So it's not that kind of austerity. That's pleasing to the personality of Godhead. What the Prajetas did was something that's even more radical. They were underwater, meditating for 10,000 years. I mean, who can do that? They could do that. However, it doesn't say how they did that, but they had the capacity to do that. It means no cheating. You can't breathe for 10,000 years. Because if you do, you're drowned. So it's not just the austerity. In fact, they were prepared to enter, because the process for Satya Yuga is meditation. They were prepared to enter the water to do their austerities in the no cheating zone, underwater. But because I just lost the page. Because they because their mood was not just, let's go and do austerity so we can become strong, we can become stoics. But there was a softer or a devotional side to them, and therefore Lord Shiva came and presented stotras for them. And I want to read a little. I lost the page. What the description is of these prayers. Going back, we're in chapter 30. The prayers are presented in chapter 24. And I'm going to read, starting with text 69 of chapter 24. The verse before, the prayers end, and then in 69, Lord Shiva says, "My dear sons of the king," so Shiva speaking to the Prachetas before they went into the water and did their 10,000-year austerities. "Just execute your occupational duty as kings with a pure heart. Just chant this prayer, fixing your mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. That will bring you all good fortune, for the Lord will be very much pleased with you." And sure enough, he was very much pleased with them. So, similar to the message of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna two things: perform your prescribed duty and always think of me. So that's what we're supposed to do. Perform our prescribed duty, stane stita, and always think of Krishna. And how do we always think of Krishna? By hearing about Krishna. One becomes Krishnaized or purified, and in that purified state start to understand Krishna and then fix our mind on the all-attractive Krishna. Therefore, O sons of the king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is situated in everyone's heart. He is also within your hearts. Therefore, chant the glories of the Lord and always meditate upon him continuously. My dear princes, in the form of a prayer I have delineated the yoga system of chanting the holy name. So they chanted the holy name in Satya Yuga too, along with controlling their mind and senses through the meditational process. So we have the control of the mind and senses in a different process, or at least externally appearing different. The principle turns out to be quite similar. All of you should take this important stotra within your minds and promise to keep it in order to become great sages by acting silently like a great sage and by giving attention and reverence. You should practice this method. And a beautiful purport to describe. You want to know how to chant japa better, read that purport. It's text 71 of chapter 24. This prayer was first spoken to us, Lord Shiva is speaking, by Lord Brahma, the master of all creators. The creators, headed by Bhrigu. So later, so it's Maitreya who's speaking, and Maitreya is in the line of Bhrigu. That was yesterday's verse. He was addressed as in the line, one who is in the line of Bhrigu. And Bhrigu is one of the direct sons of Lord Brahma. And so Lord Brahma taught Bhrigu, and Bhrigu taught others. The creators, headed by Bhrigu, were instructed in these prayers because they wanted to create. Now, they wanted to create because they were given the instruction to create, and they weren't in the same category as the four Kumaras that said, "No thanks, Dad, we don't want to create. We want to be brahmacharis." But Bhrigu accepted that responsibility, and so while we have duties, ours may not be creating, lines of progeny, but we also have, whatever it is, some duty, and to do that duty properly, as the Prachetas were being advised by Lord Shiva, before, on your mark, get set, before you go, this is preparation for doing your duties properly. So every morning, like Lord Brahma, every morning, before he creates the recreates the planets that were dissolved. Or when we get up in the morning before we do whatever our prescribed duty is, we do this, fixing the mind, bringing the mantra or the stotra, the sound, within the heart, and it's the same. Yoga-wise, it's different. The form is different, but the essence is the same. When all the prachetas were ordered to create by Lord Brahma, we, Lord Shiva and company, chanted these prayers in praise of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and became completely free from all ignorance. Thus, we were able to create different types of living entities. A devotee of Lord Krishna, whose mind is always absorbed in Him, who, with great attention and reverence, chants these stotras, or prayers, will achieve the greatest perfection of life without delay. In this material, this is just verses, no purports. In this material world, there are different types of achievement, but all of them, the achievement of knowledge is considered to be the highest, because one who can cross the ocean of nations only by the boat of knowledge. Otherwise, the ocean is impassable. By rendering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and worshipping Him are very difficult. Although, that's true, if one vibrates or simply reads the stotra, composed and sung by me, he'll very easily be able to invoke the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what we're reading this morning is, ta-da, the mercy was invoked. And the Lord appeared. And when He appeared, the prachetas completely forgot whatever was the discomfort. But devotees, at least let's say Brahmana inclined devotees, Prabhupada said not everyone is going to become a Brahmana, but Brahmana inclined devotees, and we're supposed to become towards that side, that quality of goodness. Austerity is something that we like. To others it looks like a hardship. To us it's we like. I know I like. It's just fasting on fast days. It's not, fast day. It's nice. It's nice. Especially when you're meditating on what the purpose of fasting on an auspicious day. It's an auspicious day. So we celebrate by fasting. And in that fasting, the senses become controlled and the mind becomes more easily fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and glorifying Him. That's the happiness, that's the wealth of the Brahmana. Although it may look like the Brahmana some are poor, but they're not. They're rich. They're rich with austerity and the fruit of austerity, and that fruit of austerity is pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They become very dear. Brahmanas are very Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. They're very dear. Brahmanas are very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He teaches it over and over again by His words and his example. When Narada visits Dwarka, or when Sudama visited Dwarka, Krishna immediately demonstrated not just, this is what you're supposed to do, but more than that, he honors the Brahmana. I mean, it's a leela, but it's also in his heart. He loves. They're very dear to him. because they hold the Lord very dear to them. And it's just a natural affinity, natural affection. As Krishna has great affection for cows, he has great affection for the brahmanas. So the culture, to help foster Krishna consciousness, the encouragement of Brahminical culture and cow protection is very important. And the converse is also not killing animals, especially cows, and not neglecting the brahmanas, but proper respect and honor. Of course, that means one who is actually situated as a brahmana, not just has a title, but actually has the quality. Such a person is to be honored. Doesn't matter so many other things. The other kinds of considerations of age or so many things. Even in our Pancharatrika system, the place where they're born, or their parentage, or their wealth, or their something. If their character, their quality is brahmana, the training that we're receiving is there to be honored. So the Vaishnava brahmana is to be honored and never to be neglected or disrespected. It's a very serious offense. Vaishnava aparad, very serious offense. One should be very careful. Okay, I'll end there, see if there's any discussion. Dr. Richard. Hare Krishna.
I've only heard a little bit from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but the characters and the personalities, from my little bit of understanding, could you speak about them and having Brahminical characters, or is it?
The personalities in Chaitanya Charitamrita they're out of sight. They're beyond Brahminical. But many of them, let's say, just when yesterday I was reading the section at the Naperville Center on Lord Chaitanya receiving Balavabhata. And Balavabhata is a very great personality in the Pushti Marg, in the Nimbarka Sampradaya. And he was a contemporary of Lord Chaitanya. He went to visit Lord Chaitanya and was showing and expressing his great respect for Lord Chaitanya and spoke many things in praise of Lord Chaitanya and his spreading of the Hare Krishna mantra all over. And that verse, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahe Tara Pravartana. One can only do that who has been empowered directly by Krishna to expand the glories of the holy name. It requires empowerment. And because you've done like this, I can understand you're a great personality. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He spoke like that. So Lord Chaitanya, understanding the mind of, specifically the pride of Balavabhata, to deflate the pride, Lord Chaitanya, spoke in a very humble way, appreciating, I'm a sannyasi in the Mayavad school, because that's where he took sannyas, Keshava Bharati, as Mayavad sannyasi, at least by external appearance. And so I don't know anything. I'm full number one. But by the association of Advaita Acharya, such a qualified Brahmana, he's opened my eyes to the truth of devotional service. And Lord Nityananda, and Ramananda Roy, and this one, and that one, and the other one, and the other one, and because they've been kind upon me, now I have a little inkling of what spiritual life really is. So, taking a humble position, Lord Chaitanya was deliberately saying, we're the product of the mercy of others. And one who sees themselves in that way, but with a humble view towards their position in relation to Krishna, in relation to the devotees of Krishna. So your question was about Brahminical, but they're the pinnacle of Brahminical. Because a Brahmana means one who knows Brahman. Jiva Goswami describes this in his Sandarbhas. And in Brahman, just like a number of you are squinting because the light of the sun is very bright. It's entering your eyes, you can't see much. But the sun light is coming from the sun. So the sunlight indicates the presence of the sun. Jiva Goswami reasons that Brahman indicates the personality of Godhead because the Brahman is the Jyoti from the personality of Godhead. So realization of Brahman in its mature stage is realization of the personality of Godhead. So a Brahmana, one who knows Brahman, must, in his mature stage, become a Vaishnava through devotional service to know the personality of Godhead, because only through devotional service can the personality of Godhead be known. So a matured Brahmana is a Vaishnava. That's his logic, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur similarly presented the same. The mature stage of Brahman realization is Bhagavan realization. The mature stage of a Brahmana is a Vaishnava. So if we're going to become Vaishnavas, we're trying to become Vaishnavas, then it means that is qualifying us to indirectly to become Brahmanas. So the associates of Lord Chaitanya, they're Vaishnavas, regardless of their birth or their occupation. They're Vaishnavas and qualified in the quality of goodness, the best of the Vaishnavas. Yes?
Saying not to neglect a Brahma, does that include also being proactive or attentive? Kind of thinking what more to do to serve the Brahma?
You're thinking what?
Does that being not being negligent include being attentive?
Sure. Absolutely. Someone else? Jitendriya.
I often heard that one cannot be wrapped in intention if one's eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are proper.
Yeah.
You want to run that by me again, Prabhu?
Run it by you again? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It goes like this. The verse, the place where that's written, you can look it up later, it's 1:3:44. Last verse of chapter 3, Canto 1. Easy to find. But in the verse, there's a Sanskrit word that says, after glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam that says, brilliant as the sun, and it's the place where religious principles take shelter in this age of Kali, the next verse is this one. So, I am now, Sutta says to the sages, I'm now going to explain to you this very Srimad Bhagavatam that I heard from Shukadeva Goswami, and as far as my realization allows me, I'm going to present that same to you. Please hear it with rapt attention. For by so doing, very soon you will see the personality of Godhead. And the purport, Prabhupada, focuses on that rapt attention word and says that it's a must. And then, so the delineation goes, rapt attention is not possible unless the mind is pure. The mind cannot be pure unless one is pure in action. One cannot be pure in action unless one is pure in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Then he says, in this age of Kali, who has those qualifications? But somehow or another, if one somehow manages to be in rapt attention and hear the message of Bhagavatam very quickly, this stage will come.
Sometimes we hear the expression over endeavor. So when we look at these pastimes of these great personalities and the austerities they performed, we kind of think, wow, that's could be classified as an over endeavor. So sometimes,
well, for them it's not. For us it would be.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think in my day-to-day activities I'm over endeavoring, but then some days I think I'm under endeavoring. So I guess it's all the degree of purity that we have attained.
Yeah. For specific to austerities, because that's the verse, or that's the subject matter here, each of us has this is comfortable, and that's a little bit of a stretch, and then that's beyond my capacity, and then the other is ridiculous. It's not sustainable. So, but for each person, that position may be different, and even for one person, like you said, one day and then another day. So, but the mode of goodness is to be regulated, and every one of us should accept something that's a little bit of a stretch. Rising to meet a little challenge, but not something that's
impossible.
Beyond seemingly impossible, at least seemingly impossible. Like we heard, impossible is in the word Full's dictionary, but seemingly impossible. If it's the instruction of the spiritual master to do the seemingly impossible, then it's not impossible. But if it's just, say, it's a Ekadasi, or it's Janmashtami, or it's Nirjala Ekadasi, and what am I going to do? So that which is according to our capacity, and even, let's say somebody is ill. What do they do? It's not, don't using your phrase, don't over-endeavor, because then everything's going to collapse. One's health can collapse, and the whole house of cards collapses. But still, it's good, according to our position, to a little stretch. I'm not much of a yoga practitioner, but I know people that do yoga, and that's part of the principle of yoga. It's a little, and then by doing that little, then the flexibility becomes a little more, and it's like physical therapy. I can't lift my arm. Okay, well, just try 3 times a day to just do 3 of those. And then, so little by little, then the capacity comes back. So the position of what is an over-endeavor or what is a little bit of a stretch is going to change. But for the position of a devotee, don't be complacent. I'm comfortable, I'm okay, you're okay. That's not what we're advised. We're advised to accept something that's doable and then maintain it. And by so doing, capacity increases. Go ahead.
I like what Prabhupada said, that this is a pushing movement. I'm pushing you because my spiritual master pushed me. And then I was thinking of Prabhupada getting pushed by the cow or the bull. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the cow.
Go to the west.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. You want to ask?
It's a question on behalf of Jai Jagannath Prabhu.
Oh.
This is the third time I've done this from the altar.
Okay.
In your classes.
You feeling better today?
Yeah, I was feeling physically drained because we were doing Harinam 4 hours a day and had to play the Mridanga and
I heard.
Physically.
The atmosphere is a little different too.
My question is you were speaking about austerity in terms of fixing the mind on Krishna, which is very difficult. I was wondering, especially in the beginning stages of our devotional service, it almost seems like a superlative essence to perform the austerity of Vaishnava service, because in the name of trying to fix a mind on Krishna, one may go into impersonalism, and his dealings with Vaishnavas, it would be very, if not very cordial and formal, it would be non-existent. So it seems in the beginning stages, Vaishnava Sangha seems to have a more, it's important all through, but especially in the beginning stages, even more important value, as such, than our attempt alone to fix the mind on Krishna. So I was wondering if you could maybe, am I having a misconception, or if you could shed some light on that angle?
Say the punchline of your question. I was wondering if...
Yeah, the punchline of my question is that in the beginning stages...
I got the background, just to the punchline part.
In the beginning, it seems that the point of Vaishnava Seva has a more important value than our attempt to fix the mind on Krishna by our own endeavors.
Sure.
To do so.
You're just looking for confirmation.
Confirmation and maybe an expansion on that point, because I've seen in our communities a tendency for impersonalism.
That's not in our community. It's in material existence. The tendency. Thank you for that nice question. That's a Bhakta leader question, because he's dealing with new devotees that in order to detach oneself from the toxicity of material existence, it's negation, which, when you look at it closely, it's not personalism, it's impersonalism, it's just negation of that going over to the other side. And then what happens is the pendulum starts going the other way too, because there's no shelter. So his point is, isn't it correct that it's not just about detoxing from the toxicity, but service, the mood of personalism, of service? And it's so, because a new devotee, that's the frame of reference, someone's new to the process of devotional service, isn't thinking about, okay, here's my senses, there's the master of the senses, let me engage my senses in the service of the master of the senses. That consciousness isn't developed. So I don't like that nastiness over there, so I'm going to reduce it and reduce it and reduce it and, become impersonal. Rather than Vaishnav Seva or Seva, Krishna Seva, doing service with these senses to the service of the master of the senses. So his Bhakta leader position, interacting with younger devotees, newer devotees, is, I agree. So he's asking, do you agree with that? Yes. However, on the other hand, it's to be expected. Until that understanding awakens and becomes matured, one is going to go into that zone that's just the denial of. So it becomes a little bit reactionary and at times fanatical, and something other than what devotional service really is. But in an attempt to... So Prabhupada talks about this. Don't fault these young boys, girls, because they're trying, and in their course of trying they may do something that's immature. It's to be expected. Until you're mature, you're going to do something immature. But so the understanding from the beginning, especially when you have a qualified Bhakta leader like Jai Jagannath, he would like those in his care to understand it's not just become negative towards the toxicity of material existence, it's engage in devotional service. That's the healthy condition. Another way of saying the same thing is, Prabhupada describes if you have a fever of 100 and the normal temperature is 98.6. So one solution is just make your temperature 0. And then you don't have a fever of 100 anymore. Or another is, well, I just need, make my temperature 101 or 102, and then, so it's not more materialism to diminish the fever of material existence, nor is it annihilation of material existence. It's bring the temperature to 98.6. It's do that which is natural for us to do instead of that which is unnatural for us to do. And what is natural, unnatural? What's natural is devotional service. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. That's the healthy position. Is that on target with your question? Okay. Something else? Yes.
This topic reminds me of the purport that Srila Prabhupada gives to Bhagavad Gita 7:19. It's almost exactly what you said.
That's a very interesting Bhagavad Gita you have in your hand.
Oh.
Go ahead.
E-Gita. In the beginning of spiritual realization...
Slowly, please.
In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism.
Okay.
But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life and that these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to Him, etc., etc.
So what...
even though we're trying to practice devotional service, we still haven't really come to the understanding of what spiritual activities means. That was my reflection in dealing with others on the spiritual.
Can you share with
way.
our Bhakti leader what purport that is from?
Yes, it is from 7:19 Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. Anything else? Krunanidhi. Here's the microphone. We know you like microphones.
In Bhagavad Gita, Maharaj, Krishna says, I dwells in everybody's heart.
Yeah.
By doing austerities other than prescribed austerities, I also suffer.
I also
Suffer means
support.
Suffering.
Suffer.
Yeah. So what
Krishna suffers.
Because other than prescribed austerities, if we do, then Krishna also suffers. So what is it?
I would like to see the reference where Krishna is saying that he suffers. Let's get the reference before we discuss the topic. You got your handy Bhagavad Gita there? Well, he's looking for that reference. Anyone else? Little drum roll while he's looking for the verse. Yes.
Gobhamana Hitayacha. Krishna is the lover of the cows and the brahmanas.
Yeah.
So it's a little off topic, but I was curious. The soul of the cows are very dear to Krishna. I mean, they're in an animal body. I was curious, why is it that Krishna is fond of all the cows? Are the souls that are placed in that body of some unique... We hear that they're in the mode of goodness. I was curious why even above the brahmanas, Krishna's said to be lovers of the cows. So from our perspective, it's hard to get an understanding why the cow is so dear.
Well, I heard Prabhupada answer a question like that. That was a very unique way of asking the question. But his answer was, Krishna likes cows. Krishna likes a flute. But another is mode of goodness. Amongst the animals, the cow is mode of goodness. He simply, the cow doesn't have any defense system, no horns or, some have horns, but it's not like, fight. They're not combative. They're in the mode of goodness. And those in the mode of goodness are dear to Krishna, and Krishna wants to give his protection and affection to those in the mode of goodness. And brahmanas similarly. You find it? Okay, give him the microphone.
This is chapter 17, texts 5 and 6. Translation, Prabhupada writes, "Those who undergo severe austerities and penances, not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish, and who torture the material elements of the body as well as the super soul dwelling within, are to be known as demons."
Okay, is there something in the purport about, Krishna suffering? Are you saying the person suffers or super soul suffers? No such thing. Super soul doesn't suffer. I think you remember. You find the reference and then we can discuss it. Okay. Yes.
What is... sorry.
What does it mean?
Yeah, I'm just seeking clarification on the verse. When the verse says that Nityananda Prabhu, yeah.
Okay. The verse says, those who do those things are foolish, and they torture the material elements of the body as well as the super soul dwelling within, are to be known as demons. Well, it's not in the same way as somebody that's a bully or, a terrorist or, somebody like that, and it just starts torturing you. The meaning is different because we feel pain, physical pain. It's not like that for Krishna. But the super soul is giving direction. It's the super soul, the will of the Supreme is that you come to the Supreme in a mood of love. And one who does otherwise, it's displeasing to the super soul. It's not heeding that well-wishing instruction, but going directly against that well-wishing instruction in the name of whatever, like Hiranyakashipu or Vrikasura or someone that's severe austerities for a foolish purpose. So that's displeasing to. Or, let's look at the exact Sanskrit word. Torture of the material elements as well as the super soul. Karshayanta, tormenting. It's the mentality is averse to, and how the supersoul takes that is how unfortunate. I wish to give them, and they're behaving this way. They're carrying, some total disregard for that gift that's being offered to them. Instead, they're doing something that's very hurtful to themselves and others. It's very similar to Prahlad Maharaj's statement, but I feel no suffering. I remember Krishna, remember the personality of God, and I'm completely happy. But my unhappiness is seeing these fools and rascals doing the things that they're doing that are so hurtful to themselves and others. That gives me great pain. So it's a transcendental feeling. It's not, he's tormented. Okay? And that's giving an indication of the supersoul, or the personality of Godhead, how he regards those who do those things. It brings displeasure when okay. Is that along the line of something like that? You find that other reference we can discuss. Yeah, okay. I know you'll search to find that reference. I know that you will. And then we can discuss. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.